Welcome to Lesson 3 in this series of lessons where you will be learning how to make music using Pro Tools first. In this very quick lesson, we're going to talk about the different kind of instruments we can have on a track. There are some instruments that have a single sound, so it's a single sounding instrument that every time I hit a pitch, I get a different frequency or note of that instrument. And sometimes there are what we call drum or multi-percussion instruments, where each note will actually be a different percussive sound or different sample. So I've loaded 3 different tracks here. Here's a tabla sound, and so these are all from within Pro Tools is Expand 2 instrument. So here's my tabla, and here's what that sounds like. So in this one, we actually have a few different sounding instruments. They're all tablas, but they're different hits and ways of hitting the instrument. In this track below, in the orchestral tom, this is a tom, a drum. So you can hear that the pitch actually is slowly going up as I'm going up on a keyboard. So it's almost like a piano sound or a clarinet sound where we have one sound that's going from low to high. And if we look down at this track down here, this is from the natural percussion under percussion, way down here, this one right here. And on this one, what we have is a series of different samples on each note. Let me show you what that looks like in our MIDI editor on this track. So if I enter in a note and move it, so you can see here, each of these notes, or even if I click here, so every note here is actually a different sounding instrument. So that's a key thing to remember sometimes as you're trying to find an instrument in Expand 2, but also in other synthesizers and samplers that you might get down the road, is that the sample, the instrument might be just a single sound. Like if I go to a synth brass sound here now. So it's just one sound that's changing pitches. So now this is no longer an orchestral tom. This is like a brass kind of synth sound. So just keep this in mind sometimes as you're looking for instruments that you might want to pay attention to. Is it a single sample that's being transposed over the course of the keys, or are there different instruments on each of these? And then I might compose music accordingly. So here's an example of a clip composed in this natural percussion where I have different sounds. Right on, so each of these lines is a different sound now, rather than a different pitch of that of some single sound. So let me just play what this sounds like. Right, so I have this sort of repeated kind of shaker sound coming on every quarter note here, and some other little sounds happening in here. So this is actually a way to kind of create a more layered composition on one track, right? We don't actually have anything else in this session right now, just this one track that's playing. So I might input one layer and then another, and then move things around that way. So just be aware of when you're using a percussion instrument that you check to see if there are different samples or sounds on each of the notes, or if it's a single sound that's then being transposed from high to low.